Okay, let's go.
Good morning. Good morning, one and all. How's everybody doing this fine day? Are you feeling better off after yesterday? You all planning to spend all that money the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt put in your back pockets? Are you all now just dying to vote Conservative in the next election? What a damp squib that was. And to me, it raised a question. Bearing in mind that the Tories have a lot of catching up to do in the polls, if that was really the best they could come up with, this country's in a worse state than they're letting on. Thankfully, as you're probably aware, the Breakfast Show runs on a shoestring budget and is held together by second-hand strings, so we should be okay. I'm going to say a very quick good morning to a few people who have pitched up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Dan Cullen was first off the mark. Gary Muirhead is here. Mark Whiting is here. Glenn Johnston is here. Chris Ford is here. Stephen Guthrie is here. Jim Turner is here. All of the gang are under one roof. That pretty much sums it up. Dan Cullen saying, how the bejesus are you on this wonderful day? Living the dream, though having a nightmare. Yeah, absolutely. And good morning to everybody that is currently watching over on Instagram. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Now, without further ado, I am going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. To highlight a couple of things over in the chat. The first is, I said that this show was held together by second-hand string. Dan Cullen says, I thought it was held together with cable ties. We can't afford cable ties around here. Times is hard. Chris Ford says, preferred the pink shirt. The squares are just the right size for the mystery machine. We'll come to that in just a second. Do you want to know how weird I am, right? So I was writing a thing mainly about women in construction, about the reason that I'm not doing the whole women in construction thing this year. It's going on at the moment. I'm not doing it for good reasons. It's not because I'm anti-women. If anything, I'm pro-women in the industry, but that's a whole other story. But I described myself while I was writing the article as a dedicated follower of fashion. And having done that, I thought, I'm going to put a shirt on today. The hell's that all about? You will see our question of the day. I'll come back to it in just a second. Our question of the day was, what was it? Yes, it was, what was your favourite subject at school? We will come back to that in just a moment. Let's have a look. Nice touch. Love the hat and shirt. What happened yesterday? Lol, not seen it yet. Wow. Scruff order yesterday. I'm a bit smarter today. It won't last. It'll have soup down it by lunchtime, but there you are. Right, it is Tuesday. No, it's not. It's Thursday the 7th of March. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Caterpillar demonstrates sheer power. Hitachi goes hybrid. There's a new Chinese manufacturer that we all need to get to know. And a Kobelco excavator is flourishing in the fjords. Plus, we'll be finding out what Steelwrist has in store for Intermat 2024. Gary Muirhead, calm down. It's the end of the show. Don't peak too early. Steelwrist are coming. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of our mystery machine for today. Good morning, Ken Hatcher, who has just pitched up, by the way. So, yes, mystery machine. Now, if I remember rightly, did I win yesterday? No, I didn't. No, somebody did win yesterday, didn't they? I can't remember who it was. Anyone can remind me in the chat, but somebody did actually figure out the machine. We're going to go with something different today. Now, I'll tell you now, because I didn't tell you the last time I did this, I've taken the colour out of the photograph, because if I'd have shown you the colours, it would be too easy. So this is the first glimpse of our mystery machine. Does that help at all? Does that help anyone at all? If anyone gets it from that, I will be mightily impressed, but you've done it before, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if you were to do it again. I'll hold that on the screen for just a little bit longer. Now, while you are trying to figure that out, shall I remind you very quickly of our question of the day? Yes, our question of the day, quite simply, is this: what was or what were your favourite subjects in school? Mine was a bit weird, really. I hated maths, but my maths teacher was my favourite teacher. At the same time, I was really good at English, which is kind of how I ended up doing this for a living. But my English teacher, who, funnily enough, was Irish, he was a psychopath, undiagnosed, but a complete psychopath. So, in addition to that, my English classes were ruined. They ruined reading for me, to be perfectly honest. Even though I'm an avid reader, being forced to read books prescribed by others never sat well with me. But what about you? What were your favourite subjects at school? Love to hear from you. Ken Hatcher is taking a bit of a stab. He says a dump truck. Jim Turner says, rock back bendy. Oh, Jim, you're on the ball today. I need a model. Gary Muirhead says, not long till the big Steelwrist new product launch. When are you going to be away? Next week. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be away. To be perfectly honest with you, my Thursday is screwed up, even though there's nothing going on. Just flight times means that I'm going to be in Germany, basically. Let me take that off the screen very quickly. Yeah, I'm going to be stuck in Germany. So I'm flying out. I do the show on Monday. I'm flying out literally. I mean, I've got a car picking me up about 4:30 on Tuesday. So I'm in Germany Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'm back on Thursday, but I won't be back in time to do the show. So that's what we've got to deal with. So as I say, I'll be here on Monday. I'm also here on Saturday as well. We're going to do a Saturday social this week because it is the second Saturday of the month. So tune in for that, and I'll tell you exactly what it is we're going to be up to next week, which is not very much. Only 2 shows, I'm afraid. Chris Ford says, Mystery Machine, not a chance. JCB 220X is a shot in the dark. Yeah, it really was a shot in the dark. And boy, oh boy, did you ever miss. I think we know what it is. But I tell you what, I'm going to give you a little bit more. Dan Cullen has said a Rockback A30. That's not what it's called, but man alive, you're close. I'm going to take that away. Yeah, lots of people coming back with their favourite subjects from school. We'll get to that a bit later in the show. But in the meantime, we need a spot. Hang on a minute. Did somebody just get the right answer? Gary Muirhead, close, but no cigar, I'm afraid. Yes, let's crack on. Caterpillar has a new shear attachment. Not really much sure what else there is to say. This thing eats metal like Ken Hatcher eats pizza. Made me feel rather hungry, that, for some reason. Lots and lots of things to address in the chat. We do have multiple winners of today's Mystery Machine. I'll come back to that in just a second. Mick Norton has just said the cat shear system would have been better with the actual sight noise, been the music. The sight noise was there. The sight noise was there. Well, definitely. I've coming through my ear holes. I heard it. There was music over the top. I do grant you that. And just to show, can't please all the people all the time. Dan Cullen says, tune. Chris Saul says, just right for clipping your toenails. Yeah, rather you than me. Right piece of kit, made short work of that steel. It certainly did. Dan Cullen saying, that's a shear I'd love to get my hands on. Ken Hatcher stating the obvious, that Caterpillar makes some good stuff. Oh boy, oh, do they ever. Speaking of Caterpillar, we're trying to find a date. You will recall about a year ago now, and we had a guy called Gilles Ronnet from Caterpillar on for an evening show. We're doing another one. We're going to do a dedicated hour show. There's a new Caterpillar demolition video coming, and we're going to be allowed to premiere it, which is fantastic news. But we're going to also take the opportunity to bring you up to speed with everything else that Caterpillar is doing in the field of demolition as well. So there's going to be a one-off evening show with Gilles Ronnet. We're trying to get a date in the diary before Intermat. So around about the middle of April, but I'll keep you posted just as soon as I know on that. Footy is saying, wish I'd got my demolition ticket now. Yes, indeed. Now, I did mention the fact we have multiple winners of our mystery machine, which it was based on that. When I see your comments, I know you can't see this, but when I see your comments, I get a time beside them. And at 10:10 a.m., Gary Muirhead said, it's the Rockback RA30, and he was right. At 10:10, Peter McKenna said, it was the Rockback RA30. He too was right. And 10:10, Dan Cullen said, it's a Rockback RA30. All three at the same time. Gary's one landed on my screen first, but that doesn't mean a damn thing. So you're all absolutely right. And just to prove that you were right, let me add that to the stage, and I'll flick through there very quickly. There you go. That is a Rockback RA30. Well done, gentlemen. Well spotted indeed. Can't pull the wool over your eyes even by changing the color of the damn thing. What else have we got? Mick Norton says, I remember that cat guy. He was very good indeed. Yeah, I would have to say, I mean, we've had lots of guests on the show. I've enjoyed the company of all of them, but I would absolutely say two real highlights would be Gilles Ronnet from Caterpillar and Tim Burnhope about a week ago now. A week ago yesterday, actually, talking about all things NRMM. And bizarrely, that whole thing has blown up again on LinkedIn. Don't know why, but it has. Gary Muirhead, Jim Turner should get the credit. He came up with the brand first. Well done, Jim. Yes. Dan Cullen also says Jim gave it away. You lot, you're just so nice, aren't you? Get right on my nerves. Let's have one of these.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So, if you were here yesterday, you'll know we got into the whole hybrid machine debate and discussion. Very lively it was too. So I thought I'd keep that conversation going by laying another high-tech hybrid machine before you for your viewing pleasure. This one comes from the mighty Hitachi.
DC is the environmental contractor of the DEME Group. We have two activities. On the one hand, we treat dredged sediments out of the rivers and the canals, and at the other hand, we are depolluting contaminated sites such as petrol stations and industrial sites. This is one of the 9 sites that we have in Belgium, where we dewater the dredged sediments and we recycle them into construction material. After recycling, it can be used as a capping material in landfills or in dikes and so on. The reason why we chose a Hitachi hybrid excavator is because we calculated the total cost of ownership of the different types of machines, and the Hitachi hybrid was the best in class in this range of machines. So far, after only 1 month, we are very happy with our 5 new hybrid excavators. We did the testing and the machines are consuming 30% less fuel than a conventional machine.
Don't know why that carried on playing. I'd cut that off, I thought. Oh, there we are. Yes, going to go over to the chat because we've had comments. Let's have a look. First comment that caught my eye. We're going to go back to the Caterpillar shear that we showed you earlier. The cat shear weighs in at 7 tons. Well placed to do the business. You're damn right. 7 tons, taking no prisoners. Footy has just said about that Hitachi hybrid. How are you meant to go and check your oil? There's no bandstand. I'll come back to that. There's no bandstand on the back of it. I thought we'd agreed that bandstands were actually called boxing rings. Whole other story, but that's what I guess the answer to that is we would do it exactly the same as we used to do it before somebody invented the bandstand or the boxing ring. It brings up a subject. And Mick, close your ears now because I know you're going to shoot me down in flames. Things like those boxing rings, bandstands, whatever you want to call them, are there as a safety net. It doesn't prevent you from doing the job. I've got this thing. Like I say, I've been writing about women in construction and people getting awfully excited about the fact that women in construction can't find PPE that fits them properly. In the grand scheme of things, is that a big deal? Women, please feel free, have a dig. I don't mind. I'm thick-skinned. I can take it. But also, you are personally responsible for your own safety. Yes, having 3 points of contact, fantastic. Having good, well-placed handrails, stairs where they should be, non-slip bits where you can. All of that is absolutely brilliant. They're all superb. But if they're not there, and also let me just point out that the machine we were just looking at was in Belgium. Now I realise up until we very sensibly decided that we were going to abandon our European neighbours, I realised we were all bound by one set of rules. Maybe the Belgians decided not to have boxing rings and bandstands. That's my point. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, I have no energy with his chest infection. So thanks, Jim. I didn't have to expect too much on getting the correct answer. Gary Muirhead says, I wonder if all manufacturers have a hybrid model in their range. I can only think of 4, Volvo, Komatsu, Hitachi and Cat. And Ken Hatter actually said yesterday that he believes that Caterpillar have dropped their hybrid. I'm yet to prove that right, but that could well be the case. But yeah, you've Volvo, Komatsu, no, Kobelco, because I've driven one. I can tell you Kobelco, I've definitely got one. So that's 5, but then if Caterpillar have dropped theirs, but maybe we are back to 4. Don't know. Jim Turner says, I've got 2 new sets of boxing rings for Hitachi 130. If you know of anyone that's after one, footy. Okay, fair enough. Peter McKenna also combats with an electronic dipstick. I think that's an answer to Footy's question rather than a slightly weird insult that he's aimed at me. Mick Norton says, all around protection with a handrail for the operator doesn't appear to be a priority. All down to the risk assessment. Yeah, absolutely. Footy combats with, I'm sorry, but those bandstands or boxing rings are a damn good idea. When it gets really windy, it's being blown around. You could actually get blown off your machine. And I know of somebody who actually died falling off a machine. Literally fell off a machine, landed on his head, killed. In a demolition environment as well. So I realise the risks, but I mean, when did we first get boxing rings? Doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Maybe I wasn't really paying attention, but for years we operated without them. And do you remember the very early ones? I mean, I know they were a lot more sexy and well designed now. But do you remember the early ones were just basically bits of steel cable lashed between some posts? Is that really going to stop you falling off the machine? Don't think so. Frank D'Angelo just joined us over on Diacon Demo, all the way from Australia. Dan Carn says, did you know they're talking on bringing in working height to be able to check your machine? 2 companies are doing this. What 2 companies? What 2 forward-thinking companies are doing that? Gary Muirhead says you're responsible for your safety and safety of everyone around you. You are indeed. You are indeed. Mick Norton says, if you've ever fell off an excavator or piling rig on a 360-based equipment when icy in midwinter, you'll appreciate all-round protection on the top deck. Listen, I'm not saying we shouldn't have it. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it. But looking at that film, A, wasn't the UK. Maybe they're a little less health and safety conscious. And B, we operated for years without them. And again, I'm not saying we should go back to that, but let's have a look. Gaz Evans always wants to know how to put on vandal guards and keep 3 points of contact. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I saw a video of the Digger Guard, and Digger Guard watch this quite a bit. So if you're in the chat, please feel free to join in. I saw theirs, and a lot of that takes place at ground level, which I thought was really well thought out. But yeah, you see some, particularly the ones where they're actually mounted on the roof and you've got to pull them off. You've basically got to have 1 point of contact. You've got to stand on one leg and pull a screen off the top of the machine. Yeah. When are trees going to have boxing rings around them? There's the difference. You see, there is the difference. If you're out in the wild blue yonder, like I can walk behind a car that is reversing. It would be stupid to do it. And if the car actually backed into me, it would be my fault and everything else. But I could do that. As soon as you're in a workplace environment, all of a sudden, where there's a blame, there's a claim, and all that goes with it. I've mentioned this before. You can literally have a bare field. Jim Turner, you have a bare field. You'll know what I'm talking about. All it is some grass and some mud and nothing more. But the moment you decide we're going to build on that and you put up a sign or some hoarding or something like that, all of a sudden, in the middle of that field, you need to be wearing a hard hat and a high-vis jacket and sight boots. There's nothing there. The only thing that's likely to hit you on the head is a low-flying seagull. But all of a sudden, different set of rules apply. Let's have a look. Chris Ford says, use your Bluetooth harness. Matter of time, I'm sure. Mick Norton says, case for the first to push out all-round handrail protection, bringing pre-start checks down to ground level, mitigates against installation, all-round protection on the top deck. Yes, absolutely. Bearing in mind the way that machines are actually designed and built these days, wouldn't it just be easier to have all points, all the bits that you need to check, grease nipples and dipsticks and all that sort of stuff, all down at ground level? And I realise once you get above, 50 tons, I realise ground level is asking a bit much, but wouldn't it be easier just to put them all in one place, all at ground level, so we can all just do our... I have no idea what this is, but you get the idea. Footy says the best idea we came up with was roller shutters. You roll shutters around the machine, you get a long stick, pull them down. Yep, they do work. This is where common sense goes out the window, and I caught a bit of an American press conference. Can't honestly tell you what the whole press conference was about, but somebody asked an American politician something along the lines of, how are you going to amend this to make it suitable for trans people? And the answer that the lady gave was, life's hard. Put on a helmet. And there's a little bit of me. Listen, I don't want anyone to get hurt, and I certainly don't want to get anyone to get killed. But there is a little bit of me now that thinks that we are playing that card a bit too often. Not the trans card, but it's somebody else's fault. I can't go up on that machine because you haven't provided me with a boxing ring. Well, your forebears did. Most of them survived. TT Demolition just joined us over on Instagram as well. Ken Hatcher confirming what he said yesterday. Cat don't do the hybrid anymore. I will need to check that. If they did drop it, they did it very, very quietly. Footy says, what's going on here? 40 ton of bird shit. It is crazy. You've got to wear a hard hat, but nothing can fall out of the sky. Maybe a bird. Indeed. Let's have a look. Well, that is very much the case, isn't it? Difference is not everyone's common sense is equal. No, that is certainly the truth. I don't know how to pronounce your name, sir, madam, but hello, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Where are you in the world? You're not allowed to use common sense in this day and age, being bred out of the youngsters. Yeah, and I don't want to get into this because it is treading a very fine line, but I have a friend who works at a local authority, and she employed somebody to work at the local authority office. And this person was consistently late. I mean, I think the start time is 8:30, and it was usually sort of 9:15 before they pitched up. And they would routinely go to lunch at 12 o'clock and get back about 2 o'clock. Routinely. I mean, we're not talking about once or twice, we're talking routinely. And on one occasion, this person actually went to lunch, didn't even bother coming back. So my friend, who is in HR, took them to one side and said, your punctuality is awful, and you can't just go home when you feel like it. If you feel ill, let somebody know, and fine, but you can't take 2 hours for lunch. And a week later, I am being racially abused, came the letter. The problem we've created by trying to please all the people all the time is that you can't please all the people all the time, and they will use that against you. They absolutely will. I don't know how we got here. Chris Ford says you're not allowed to use common sense in this day. Oh, no, we did that. So let me go back to the show, shall we? Before we get all hot and bothered about stuff. Here we go. If you were here at the very top of the show, you will know that I promised you fjords. Well, fjords you sure jolly well have. We're heading for Norway now for some stunning scenery and an equally stunning Kobelco excavator. This is an SK300. Pretty damn smart it is too. Yeah, a lot of love in the chat for the Kobelco. Let's have a look, see who we've got here. Chris Ford actually says, nice to see the operator get a mention. So the machine, as a machine in most cases, is only as good as the operator. Totally agree. Dan Cullen says, Kobelco, a sexy piece of kit. No boxing ring again. And that machine stood out from a distance. Wow, what a video production. Yes, it most certainly was. Although it is greatly helped by the fact that it was shot by the fjords in Norway. Has anyone been to Norway? Has anyone here been to Norway? I really can't recommend it enough. It's like Scotland, but a bit further away with maybe a bit more water. Let's have a look. Who else did we have here? Peter McKenna says, Kobelco, you've got to admit they look good and perform like they are expected to as well. A lot of love for the old Kobelcos. Glad to see it. Let's have a look. Jim Turner has also said, going nothing to do with Kobelco whatsoever. Everyone is treated like an idiot nowadays. It's a part of a grand plan to make the world's population easier to control, as idiots are easier to control. You've clearly never met my children. I question everything, and I expect a satisfactory answer for why I have to do or don't do something. Please let a new planet be discovered so I can go and leave the brainwashed plebs behind. How would you get by? How would you get by without the Breakfast Show? I mean, we can beam across multiple platforms. Not sure I can beam to another planet. I'd have to go to Norway and Sweden. Some nice kit there. Some fantastic people, some fantastic food, and man alive, the scenery. If you get a chance, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. Trust me, if anybody ever offers you the chance, do it. Chris Ford says, Norway, I rarely go south. Northampton. From where you are, is Norway south? I don't know. I'd need to look at a map. Footy says Switzerland and Austria as well. Yeah, both absolutely gorgeous. I think I've only been to Austria 2 or 3 times, but I've been to Switzerland quite a bit. Used to do a lot of work over there. So yes, totally agree with that. Enough of the European stuff. We're going to be back with something new and Chinese in a minute. Stand by.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I think we've all now got our heads around Lugong and Sany and Sunward and XCMG and maybe even Shantui. But lurking in the background is yet another Chinese equipment manufacturer. Now, whether their products are headed this way at a time when Chinese equipment producers stand accused of dumping low-cost excavators in the UK market, frankly, that's anyone's guess. But either way, here is a sneak preview of a company called Atlapex. Atlapex. Not an anagram, it's the name of a company. This is what they look like.
Atlapex Industry is a leading international machinery manufacturer since 2007, with its manufacturer located in Qingdao, covering an area of more than 50,000 square meters, with more than 400 employees, including 55 engineers dedicated in product innovation and developing. Atlapex Industry, with an annual capacity of more than 15,000 mini wheel loaders, forklifts, excavator, backhoe loader, skid steer loader, telescopic loader, concrete mixer, etc. All the products meet all the internationally required manufacturing standard and quality control certifications. Welcome customers abroad and domestic for business communication.
Yeah, Atlapex. Atlapex. I found it, the most interesting thing about that, maybe it wasn't the products, another company founded in the 2000s. I know XMG go back a lot further than that, but yeah, founded in 2000, and here we are 17 years later, 50,000 square feet of factory, and they're churning out excavators like they're going out of fashion. Wow, that's a different, none in the UK I've ever heard of. How are they worldwide? Well, how much of the world do you need to cover before you can claim world? I mean, this is a global show. I think the people that watch this primarily are only English speaking, but yeah. Hold on, guys. I must get into my Atlapex. Doesn't sit well, does it? It almost sounds like they've gone to ChatGPT and said, come up with a really British sounding name. Atlapex. Wow. Atlapex actually started out as a tyre manufacturing company. That happens quite a bit. Oh, it happens over here when you think Nokia. Nokia started out as a toilet roll manufacturer, allegedly. But yeah, I wonder if Atlapex were a supplier of tyres to one of the other majors, like maybe an XCMG or something like that, and thought, we could do that. That's not hard. We could do that. I wonder. Chris Ford says, I wonder how many brands there are out there that we've never heard of. Bearing in mind with the speed with which they started, and bearing in mind, when the Chinese economy was really going all guns blazing, you could probably start a company and be a multi-million pound turnover, or a multi-million. What are they using? It's not yen, is it? That's Japan. What are they using in China? I can't remember. But whatever it is, you could be multi-millionaires in a matter of a fortnight because there was so much demand for equipment. Mick Norton, we're back on boxing rings, I think. If an employee falls from height from a 360-degree excavator top deck and the HSE investigates the employer and his insurer will have their work cut out to defend a policy of no all-round protection on the top deck. First thing the HSE would ask for is the employer risk assessment for perceived hazards and the control measures, none of which comes as a surprise. When bearing in mind who the audience of this show is, and even setting that aside, I am always on the side of the employee, because I think they are treated pretty poorly by all and sundry. But even if there was no protection up there, and your man's got up there, there's an inch of ice up there, and he decides to do a bit of a Torval and Dean deliberately to show off to his friends, and he falls off and hurts himself. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Yes. Yuan is China. Yuan, is that how you pronounce it? Yuan? It's Chinese money. I bet it's really colourful. I remember being very impressed with the Japanese. I didn't get any Japanese currency until I got there, because I was advised that was the best way to do it, because the Japanese are far more honest than the Brits, I guess. I arrived, got off the plane, went and got myself some currency, like Monopoly money. It's fantastic. Even took a photograph of it. I was that impressed. Right, we've done the weird and the wonderful from China. We're going to be back in just a moment with something far more European. Gary Muirhead, stand by your bed. We're back with you in a sec. Yeah, I think we've kept Gary Muirhead waiting for quite long enough. It's time to find out precisely what the mighty Steelwrist have in store for those of us heading to Intermat next month. Now, this is a big file because we shot it and we tend to shoot in 4K. So let me drag this off my computer just as soon as I can find it. It looks like this.
Stanberry, and I work with Steelwrist. I look forward to seeing you in our Steelwrist booth at Intermat 2024. So what's new with the new generation? So there's a lot of things. I won't be able to tell you everything here today, but we have looked at a number of different things, among others the geometry, the way that we mount the cylinders, and the geometry to make it even more compact. We worked on the building height of the total tilt rotator, because the lower building height is making it even more compact. Integration to machine control system is just increasing importance, so therefore absolute rotation center and absolute angle sensors included in the tilt rotator. The new generation of tilt rotator, third generation, we will go one step further in terms of quick coupler safety to take that to an even new level, advance the new legislation that is coming with EN 474 when that is updated. So there is a lot of things that we're building into this new generation of tilt rotators.
The French organization we have started in 2016, just after the last two Intermat, and the first time 2018.
So I mean, to 2018, it was also 6 years ago since there was an Intermat. So I think we're extremely eager to come here again to actually show our products in such an important market for us as well, where we already early on have had very good success of Steelwrist. One of the European markets where we have come the furthest, and we are also a very strong brand, specifically in the French market.
The global concept in France is now a known concept, the tilt rotator. That's quite good. It's still depend of the range of the machine, like a weight and a kind of wheel and crawler. It's still a difference, but less and less different. And now it's really an easy solution that every customer have understand the benefits. It's really a non-issue now.
The Innovation Award, we're up for our very compact tilt coupler, the TCX, for the really small machines. So that's one of the Innovation Award, which we are super happy to be up for, because it's not a big complex thing, but the greatness of it is the small. It's only 2 casted major components, and we're making it very light, very compact. That's the whole innovation of it. So, and it's ideal for a machine less than 2 ton to have an easy tilt function. Secondly, of course, with the openness and the openness organization, the Openness Alliance, which also been nominated, which is about creating a common standard for fully hydraulic quick couplers, something that we believe so strongly in, that a customer should be able to pick and choose whatever tool he wants to have from whatever manufacturer, and with openness we are making sure that tool and quick couplers work together, including the fully hydraulic couplings. Then if he chooses to buy a grapple from someone else, from Kinsofer for example, is also an openness member, and he attaches that to a Steelwrist tilt rotator, we're okay. We can also sell a grappler, but we're happy that the customer is, because the customer in the end decides. So that Innovation Award as nominated openness, we think is great. So it's also true to what we believe in, that it's the customer that decides the best solution. It's not so we as a manufacturer.
Let me try that again. Apologies for any noise you heard in the background while that was playing. Something went wrong with the boom arm. It started to droop. So I tightened the nut, but I realized the nut was actually attached to the microphone, and I'm sure you heard it. My apologies for that. Dan Cullen's actually asked, is there a British-made rotary hitcher tool? I don't know the answer to this. Do Master Hitch, do they offer one? I actually can't remember. Jamie O on YouTube says, price, performance, and service. They will make it. Pensacola, Florida. Good morning. Very early morning, Pensacola, Florida. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Commonality for all quick couplers and their attachments would be a great bonus. Yes, it would. There's so much within construction equipment that does need a degree of standardization. We touched on this the other day with the various screens that we've got in cab. Put it all on one screen, just make them all speak a common language, and just have one screen, so we're not cluttering up the cab. But chargers, there are lots of electric machines out there. Do they all have the same charger cable? Do they buggery? We should have that. We should have standardized chargers, standardized charging cables, and as Mick has rightly said there, commonality for quick couplers and their attachments. Obviously, we are in the era of Open S, which is heading that way. However, there are some companies that are basically standing away from that. I think Craic is one of them. I think Craic has decided OpenS is not for them, even though we had a chat off camera about OpenS with the guys at Steelwrist, who are obviously pushing that concept, the standardized quick coupler arrangement. And one of the things they were saying was, OpenS doesn't mean that you all share your trade secrets. You're basically sharing just the bit that you need to know. In other words, here is the whole quick coupler. The only bit you're talking about is that little bit there. So yes, Gary Muirhead, what can I say? The mighty Steelwrist. The mighty Steelwrist indeed. I am so looking forward to going over there next week. Looking forward to actually getting to see where these things are built. Peter McKinnon said that would mean multiple companies sharing their ideas. There must be a way, though, mustn't there? I mean, particularly when you're thinking about all things electronic. Even if all you agree is we will produce our output from the sensors on a machine or from the software that control various aspects of the machine, we will produce them in a specific language. On all of that, that's the only bit that you agree to. We're going to use this specific language to output from sensors, from software, from feedback from the machine, from telematics and everything else, just so they can all go into one central hub. You don't have to share exactly what goes on behind the scenes. Just share the fact that, or just agree that you'll all use that one. It's a bit like, I'm looking at a microphone here. The microphone that he's, the lead that goes out of this goes to a USB cable. We all know what a USB cable looks like. Everyone's agreed to use a USB or a USB-C or a lightning port. Just do that. Just do that. What happens here in this bit of microphone is of no interest to the company that made my Mac that I'm talking into. They just want to make sure that the interface between this and that is one language. Dan Cullen says, was talking to a company and they said the reason they employ so many international people is they're more reliable, no laziness and no complaint. It's unreal how many times they were let down by people who was on the job one day and decided to pull a sickie. I've told you this before and I'll tell you again. I spoke to a demolition company. They've been on this show multiple times. They had some strip out work to do, quite a way away from their usual base. So they went through a local agency, and I think they needed about 20 guys for the strip out phase of the project they were on. So they got 20 guys, and 20 guys arrived on day 1, 15 arrived on day 2, 12 arrived on day 3, 4 arrived on day 5. So in the end, the site manager basically phoned his boss up and said, look, I've got an idea. I'm going to offer an incentive whereby if you complete an entire week, you will get a bonus. I don't know what the bonus was, like 50 quid or whatever it might be, 50 quid in your back pocket. And the boss said, look, if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. Go ahead, crack on. You have my best wishes to do that. So he sat 10 guys down and said, if you can complete a whole week, there's an extra, whatever it is, bonus in it for you. The following day, only half of them turned up. I'm not saying that is a British thing. I'm not saying that's an English thing or an Irish thing or a Scottish or a Welsh thing, but it does make you wonder. And what I don't understand, bear in mind, I've got 4 kids and all of mine, well, only 3 of them are at work. One's a full-time mum. But my 3 children have got a work ethic that basically mirrors mine, and mine mirrors my father's. I remember actually saying to my dad, you've lost sight of common sense. You spend all your time at work and you don't spend any time with your family. Fast forward 20 years, I was every bit as guilty, if not slightly more. It's easier now that I work at home, but I'm every bit as guilty. But my children have inherited that. What happened? I'm not saying this is a universal thing, but what happened to the generation? Because, some of us are of a certain age. We've got children. Gary Muirhead, you've got kids. If your children decide to go to work on a Monday and then decided they couldn't be asked on a Tuesday, they'd get a toe in their ass, wouldn't they? Because that's the way we've all been brought up. I don't know what's gone wrong to make that not the case anymore. Really don't. Footy says, get to the job site, always on time or before time. It's what I was told to do. Don't take sick days, only if I'm really, really rough. When I worked for Reed Business Publishing, who were the publishers of both, Contract Journal, Plant Managers Journal, and International Construction, I actually did 3 years without a sick day. And I'm not saying that because, hey, look at me, look how healthy I am. It was just, wouldn't think of it. The work had to be done, and particularly when I was moved over to become deputy editor of Plant Managers Journal, that magazine was my baby. That would go out. Even if I was suffering with bubonic plague, I'd have got the damn thing out the door because it was mine. Don't understand it at all. Don't understand it at all. We can talk about all of that. We can talk about school days because we're talking about all things related to your favourite subjects at school. So that's about it for the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back with the Craic just as soon as this is over. Morning all. How are we? There was a couple of comments came through literally as I was going off air. So let me address those first. Gary Muir says, definitely, I've drummed it into my kids. If you want things in life, you have to work for it. And they have. Yeah. I mean, listen, I had a paper round when I was about 13. I was cleaning a guy's car literally every Saturday I'd go and clean this guy's car when I was about 14. I was working on market stalls by the time I was 15. Between going from school to college, I had a job in a newsagent and I had another one on a newspaper stall where I'm selling newspapers every day outside a train station. Never missed. Because if you didn't turn up, you didn't get paid. I wanted the money. I had clothing to buy and young ladies to entertain. Why would I not go? Mick Norton says, sad to say, but the sector is lumbered with generation sick chit, indicative that the work ethic that many of us have enjoyed has all but disappeared. Phone staring snowflakes. I wouldn't take them prisoner, says Mick Norton. And there's a bit of me that says, yeah, we're all getting a bit carried away. This is, I remember my dad accusing me of being lazy, and I've accused one of my sons of being lazy, but they come good, and I came good, and everything else. But you do get the impression that, my son is a manager at a David Lloyd club. And because of the nature of a David Lloyd club, he tends to employ a lot of young people. They are sometimes between school and university, particularly around about summertime. But he also employs a lot of young people because they're into gyms and health and fitness and all that sort of thing. And, his job is basically to keep the club running and to be customer facing and everything else. He spends probably 85% of his time dealing with staff issues because staff have decided, no, I went out on the lash on Sunday night. I'm not coming to work on Monday. Peter McKenna says, my dad did 10 years without a sick day once. I don't think I've ever done more than 6 months without, due to always being prone to chest infections from being very young. Listen, if you have issues, you have issues. Tail end of my father's career, he had COPD and he would miss time. There's nothing could be done about it. That's just the way it is. But it's not given the choice, Peter. If I could wave a magic wand right now and make you fully healthy, you wouldn't miss work, would you? You wouldn't swing the lead and pull a sickie. You just wouldn't. That's not the way that we were raised. Footy says, make it like the old days. Time to change. And unfortunately, this generation don't want to. Mick Norton has also said, here in Yorkshire, it was that rough we had to eat coal for breakfast before going to work. It does feel a bit like that sometimes, doesn't it? A lick road clean with tongue. I love to work and want to, yet can't. Yeah. Do you know, I would find that incredibly frustrating. And I always, Chris Ford knew where that conversation was coming from. Mick Norton, you were lucky. Well played, Chris. Yeah, I've said this before, and I hate that our music has stopped. Bear with. There we go. I hate the notion. Oh, we're really on a roll here. I hate the idea that I am defined by what I do. You know, I'd rather, you know, when I finally jack this in, whatever the bloody hell this is, I'd much rather be remembered as a, you know, half reasonable husband, a half reasonable father, and a half reasonable grandfather. That, you know, because frankly, that means more to me. But I think, you know, we are partly or largely defined by our jobs. And I think the structure of our day and our working week is structured around work. And as Peter has just said, yeah, more than frustrating, I'd imagine it would be. By gum eck. Let's have a look. Mick Norton, we got evicted from our cardboard box where we lived. Yeah. Didn't you? Wasn't there something about had to get up for work half an hour before you'd gone to bed or something like that? I can't. My dad used to beat us with a broken bottle or something. I haven't watched that in years. If anybody thinks I've gone mental and our audience have gone mental, it's The Four Yorkshiremen by Monty Python. One of the great comedy sketches of all time, in my opinion. Right, back to the beginning of the chat. Who we got? There is Dan Cullen. Good morning, everyone. Everyone, happy Be-Googles Day. Happy Be-Googles Day. Be careful, that could break the Google copyright if you're not very careful. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Says Gary Muir. Good morning to you, Gary. I hope you enjoyed the Steelwrist glimpse. And yes, I'm off to Steelwrist land. Yeah, sort of. I'm going to Hamburg. I'm not going to, because Steelwrist are Scandinavian, aren't they? Aren't they Swedish or somewhere like that? But I'm going to Germany. Going to Hamburg. I'm sure this is not the case any longer, but I went to Hamburg. I'm going to take a wild stab at around about 1988, 1989, because I'm still working for Plant Manager's Journal at the time, and had reason to travel to Hamburg for business. And got to the airport, was dropped off at the airport, waiting for my flight to go home. And you know, here we have maybe a W.H. Smith's, or a Boots the Chemist, or I don't know, a McDonald's or a Burger King, so you can go and bide your time until your flight comes in? Yes. Hamburg Airport, back in the late 1980s, had a pornography cinema on the premises. I didn't think I'd be comfortable getting on a plane after an hour and a half of hardcore pornography, but they had that. Hamburg has a very big red light district, and apparently it spilled over slightly to the airport. I don't know where that came from, but that's absolutely true. I saw it with my own eyes. Mark Whiting's in the house. Morning, Mark. Good of you to join us. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Who else we got? Glenn Johnston's here as well. Chris Ford is here. And yes, lumberjack shirt today. Yes. I have several of these. I tend to wear them more as like an overshirt. So I normally have a t-shirt underneath, but it's quite toasty in here today. So I thought, no, sod it. I'll just go, I'll go relatively smart. Does anyone remember? Gary, I'm looking at you. You're old enough and you're Scottish enough. Does anyone remember the band Big Country from back in the 80s? Stuart Adamson, so sadly no longer with us, used to be able to play an electric guitar to make it sound like bagpipes. Fantastic band. Saw them live once, and having seen them live once, they used to wear these, but they favoured, is it like a Stuart tartan? Is that the red one? I think it may be. They used to wear these in red, but they chopped the sleeves off. And yes, I will grudgingly admit that I too did that. Skinny little noodle arms sticking out the side of a red lumberjack shirt. What was, I think, not my biggest crime against fashion, but it's up there. Stephen Guthrie and Jim Turner are here. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Chris Ford preferred the pink shirt. It will be back. I as those of you that are here a lot will know, we are planning to do a show in which we round up all the hot products from this year and decide which we believe to be our favourite. And I am planning half planning to do that in a tux, possibly. You know, probably do it Oscars style, golden envelopes and all the things. I can't do golden envelopes because you're deciding, but you get the idea. I said that this show was held together by spit and string. It is not held together with cable ties because they're too expensive. Now, that was our question of the day. What was your favourite subject at school? As I say, hated maths because I was rubbish at it, but I had a really, really, really good Mr. McBride, wherever you are, assuming you're still with us. Mr. McBride, fantastic teacher, despite the fact that I was very, very poor at the subject that he taught, and the fact that I was reluctant to attend those classes. He really put his arm around me and brought me along. I got my O level. It was a piss poor O level, but I got my O level thanks to Mr. McBride. On the other side, my English teacher, who was Irish, and Mr. Anderson, certified lunatic, and I mean, I just had a natural thing for English. I'd always, literally as a child, I'd been a keen reader, and I was always writing stories and stuff like that, which kind of stood me in good stead. But yeah, he almost turned me off English because the guy was such a complete lunatic. However, and I'm just going to do this very quickly because there's a lot more chat to get through. One thing that we did do, we had a school reunion actually in our school. It's about 20 years after we'd all left, and Alf Anderson, my English teacher, was old when he was teaching us. So 20 years later, I mean, we were all quite surprised to learn that he was even still alive. But he turned up, and we were all stood there. There's about 150 of us all stood there shouting and catching up on old times and everything else. And Alf came in with a walking stick, and he was all hunched, and he was barely able to move. And even though he'd made my life a misery for several years while I was at school, I remember thinking, oh, that's terribly sad. The guy had been, such a force of nature, and now look how time has diminished him. And he got to the middle of the hall, threw the stick away, and he went, "Good afternoon, children. How are you?" Yes, he could act a bit as well. Soppy old bugger. Despite the fact that he made my life a misery, miss him a bit. Let's have a look. Good morning, Mr. Guthrie, Footy, Jim, Chris, Pedro, Mr. Saunders, and everyone else alike. Yes, good morning, everyone. Stephen Guthrie, favourite subject at school? Maths. Maths, yes, could never come to terms with maths. No, that's not true. I was okay with maths until they mentioned things like fractions and what were those poxy, I'm trying to remember, logarithms. Oh, logarithms. The very stuff of nightmares. Anyone remember logarithmic tables? The fuck was that all about? Still don't know to this day. Chris Ford, his best subject was plain truant. Yes. Glenn Johnston, CDT. Now, is that... We had a subject at school called TD, which was technical drawing. Is that anything like that? CDT? Don't know. Let us know. I'd love to hear from you. Good morning, says Ken Hatcher, who has... He's got rain and he's got cloud. You do get some weather in Wales, don't you? Dan Cullen says, never at school long enough to get into a subject. Gary Muirhead says, woodwork. I used to love working with wood. If I hadn't chosen this career path, I think I would have been a joiner. Bizarrely, my dad actually studied to be a joiner. Joiner stroke cabinet maker. And he did it for a little while. But at the time, no money in it. So he ended up doing his father had worked not in journalism, but worked in the print industry. My dad followed him, and then I followed him. But my dad's father fixed print presses. My dad drove the people that owned the publishing company because he was a chauffeur, and I still ended up at the same company, but I wrote. I think that's a step up. I'm not sure. I didn't see this one. I do apologise. River, is that Northwest? Applauding. I don't know where River Northwest is, or if that's NW or Northwest, but they're on YouTube. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Peter McKenna says his favourite subject was music. I skipped religion, science and maths just to go to music classes. When Fred, my youngest son, he actually went to a stage school, a private stage school in West London. And because he was of a certain age and certainly a certain mentality, he decided they had lessons called things like humanities. If anyone that's ever met Fred will tell you, humanities is never likely to be a strong point because he doesn't do people. So he would regularly do a disappearing act, and the teachers all knew where to find him. He'd be in the music studio with his electric guitar plugged in, blowing the windows out. Always. Had some guesses on our mystery machine. It wasn't a Bobcat. It was a Rockback RA30. Question 8. Every subject was sport. I've been told to write things down all the time. My favourites were history and science. Yeah, I never had an issue with writing things down. And history, science was and remains a mystery for me. But history was largely sport. I had all my yesteryears now. My history teacher. Well, I had two. I had a guy called what's his name? Terry Jones. Terry Jones was my first, and he kind of split his role at the school. He was part history teacher and part football teacher. He was our football coach as well, and he actually wrote in one of my school reports that it looked like I'd done my history homework with a pen in one hand and a football in the other, which was probably true. But as I got older, my history teacher changed to a guy called Ken Russell, who had been in the military. He'd actually served in World War II and had kept all of the traits of a particularly nasty sergeant major. And once he clocked the fact that my name was Mark Anthony, if I shuffled in my seat, if I gave a wrong answer, if I farted in the wrong place, I was told to stand on my chair and recite the Friends, Romans, Countrymen speech from Julius Caesar. He took enormous delight in that. Gary Muirhead says, yeah, not long till the big Steelwrist new product launch. It is next week. I'll be here Monday, I'll be here Friday, and I'll be missing in that bit in the middle. But I don't know quite what the setup is going to be over there, and I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember the timings. If I've got time on Thursday morning, and if I've got a decent Wi-Fi connection, I may try to come on, but if I can't do that, then obviously I'll be telling you all about my trip to Steelwrist on a Friday. There we are. Question of the day: metalwork, tech drawing, and pottery. Pottery. Didn't do pottery at my school, did they? I don't remember pottery. We did metalwork and we did woodwork, but I don't remember any pottery going on. Mick Norton says, history and English, hated art, failed GCE, human biology, hygiene. You had a hygiene lesson? I wish we'd had that in my school, because we had some really smelly buggers at my school. But hygiene, or was that human biology and hygiene? Is that one thing? We didn't have that. Rather wish we had. Footy arrived a little bit late, but he's trying to get some work. Not a problem at all. Mick Norton says that cat shear system would have been better with the actual site noise. It was there. I'm not going to dwell on it, but it was there. I'm going to go through all the cat stuff, because we've already said that. Yes, just to recap, our mystery machine, which looked like that, it was the Rockback RA30, correctly guessed by almost everyone, but Jim Turner started the trend. Let's have a look. And then we got into the whole thing with boxing rings and bandstands. What do you call it? I'm a boxing ring man myself. Is that a southern thing? Is that a me thing? Or did somebody agree that it was going to be bandstands? I don't know. Let's have a look. What else have we got here? Found that one interesting. Did you know they're talking about bringing in working at heights to be able to check your machine? 2 companies are doing this. What 2 companies are they? That's what we'd like to know. Gaz Evans, morning Gaz, from Gem Attachments, purveyor of all things fine and dandy in the model world. Says, always want to know how to put on vandal guards and keep 3 points of contact. I think if you've got 4 people and they've all got a hand on it each, but the only way you're going to do it. Let's have a look what we got here. Awkward greased nipples bugs me off, says Tag Cullen. Awkward nipples of any type bug me off. Yes, quite right. I actually think we could probably do a whole show based on that. You're not allowed to use common sense in this day and age. It's been bred out of the youngsters. One of my concerns with that, and Mick, please feel free to shoot me down in flames. That's why I'm here. One of my concerns with that is when you remove common sense, you are leading people into a false sense of security. It goes back to what I was saying about simulators. A high reach simulator. You get somebody on there, they get very good at it, and they think they are the dog's doodahs, and then they go out on site where the ground is a bit less level. They first encounter proper rocking on the machine and the weight of the attachment and all that kind of thing. Different environment, but they've been led to believe by a machine that they are pretty damn splendid at what they're doing. If you are constantly bombarded with toolbox talks, pre-start briefings, health and safety this, health and safety that, you're almost getting to the point where, well, the employer has thought of all of this. I just need to go and drive the machine. It's not that. It's not that. The employers are basically covering their backsides. People in machines and people around machines still need to have their wits about them. And I do wonder if we're basically breeding that out, as Chris Ford has basically said there. Lots of love for the Kobelcos. Rattling through. Jim Turner went all conspiracy theory on us. Part of a grand plan to make the world's population easier to control. Idiots are easier to control. Yes, I will do as I'm told. Absolutely. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? And bizarrely, obviously we had the budget yesterday, and I've been watching a lot about the American election, and also watched. Did anyone see the abs? Listen, I know my politics don't necessarily align to Mr. Sunak, but I don't know whether they've done an advert or a TV show, Mr. and Mrs. Sunak. It's like aliens pretending to be people. You've never seen two more awkward, inhuman people in your life. And I keep thinking, when I watch lots of stuff. I mean, this Marjorie Taylor Greene telling one of our Pride and BBC reporters to F off yesterday or the day before. And yet, there are people in America lining up to vote for Donald Trump. Even setting aside what looks increasingly like the fact that he's got dementia and the criminal prosecutions and everything else. I was thinking about this in bed last night, which is weird because I don't generally think about weird men in bed. Honest. I lived through the 1970s. Jimmy Savile was a regular on our TV screens. And who was it? I think it's Mickey Flanagan has done a sketch about this. And he said, when his mum always knew that there was something squiffy about Jimmy Savile. And when you look back at Jimmy Savile as he was, how did we not know that he was a wrong one? How did we not know? And I would say precisely the same, in a different way. I'm not accusing him of the same crimes as our friend Mr. Savile. But when you look at Donald Trump, is there anything about Donald Trump that makes you think, seems like a nice fella? Or are you looking at him thinking, well, he's orange, and that hair, and the I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't like him when I'm looking for faults. I don't know. Dan Cullen says, I'd love to go to Norway and Sweden. It's a nice kit there. There really is. I do find it quite funny, actually. We mentioned Ricky Webb of East Coast Demolition, or East Coast Abatement and Demolition on the show a couple of days ago, where he's been using some AMI attachments. But he said to me when I was over in the States that he models his company on some of the stuff that we're doing over here. He keeps a very close eye on the work of Rich Holt up at AR Demolition and stuff like that. And yet, when you think about things like tilt rotators, GPS, quick couplers and all that kind of thing, while Ricky Webb is watching us, we're busily watching the Scandinavians. So yeah, they do have some very interesting stuff up there as well. Let's have a look and rattle through. And now I mentioned, if you've got somebody doing a Torval and Dean on an icy excavator, who is to blame if he falls off? As you would expect, Mick Norton has an answer. The vicarious liability for the operator who clowns about lies firmly and squarely with the employer. In court, the judge would apportion blame to suit the circumstances and level a custodial sentence and fine accordingly. So you can be a tit, but it's your boss's fault, apparently. Is that right? Is that how we want to go down? Lots of talk about lack of sick time, which is all good to see. We lived in a hole-in road. Yes, we did. And Chriswell tops himself even more. My uncle went to Hamburg regularly in 1944. Jamie O says, what you retain in your memory bank? Listen, there's no useful information in here at all. Nothing. There, if you ask me how to change a plug, I'd have to look up a YouTube video. But I can tell you that the lyrics to an obscure orchestral manoeuvres in the dark song from 1981, not a problem at all. I hope you're going to wear a top hat. There's a charity shop down the road from me, and they had a bowler hat in there the other day, and I came so close to actually picking it up. I didn't. It wasn't a particularly good fit. Diggerman Blogs just joined us over on Instagram. I think Nick is over in Finland at the moment. I'm fairly sure somebody told me he was in Finland. Morning, Nick. Hope Finland is treating you well. I think you probably got some snow there, but enjoy. Peter McKenna says, I've got a red one on now, and your shirt. Oh, you're wearing a red one of these as well. Also, I've got blue one. Got to have an inside pocket though, which not very many do. No, this is just a shirt. This is just a shirt. I've got some heavier duty ones. Do have an inside pocket, funnily enough. Mick Norton says, our American cousins watching your show will be thinking those poor Brits living in cardboard boxes and having to eat cardboard. Well, I think funnily enough, we've had another American just dropped in as our friend Garrett over at Wolf World of 69. I've always been led to believe that the Americans think that we're all basically Hugh Grant. All Brits are Hugh Grant, and we all know the Queen. We're all on first name terms with the Queen. Well, not now, obviously, but yeah, Napier's logarithms. I don't know who Napier was, but he made my life an absolute misery when I was a child. Chris Ford said our American cousins are busy eating hot dogs and burgers and donuts. Don't worry about where we live. Is that true, Garrett? Is that true? Well, I can tell you, his favourite subject at school was chemistry. Does that stand you in good stead for the job you do now? Welder, may do. I don't know. When I was at school, I wish we'd learned magic. Then I'd understand where money disappeared to. Yeah. Well, I've actually figured that out, and I can say it freely because my wife doesn't live here anymore. That's not true. My wife's dad is in hospital, and because her mum has MS, my wife is actually living with her mum at the moment, only for a couple of days. She hasn't left me. Wouldn't blame her if she did, but she hasn't left me. But she's living somewhere else at the moment. But yeah, that's where my money disappears to. But I very rarely have cash. But our local Chinese takeaway only takes cash for reasons that I won't dwell upon. But they only take cash. And I went there the other night, bought myself a quarter of duck with the pancakes and all the stuff that goes with it, because that's what I fancied. And I came away with change of about, I don't know, £7 or whatever. Stuck it on a table, ate my duck, looked up, money had gone. And I said, where's that money gone? And she said, oh, you don't need money. I need it for parking. Okay, I said. And the following day, she got me to drive her where she was going and got me to pay for parking. Yeah, that's how it works in this house. I used to fail at maths lots in school, didn't learn much. Too busy staring at the maths teacher's huge boobs. Oh, do you remember that? Do you remember that? We had a cookery teacher. I was at a mixed school. We had a cookery teacher, Miss Brock. Miss Brock. Miss Brock. One of my friends swears blind that while she was demonstrating how to make pastry, that one of her boobs actually fell out. I don't think boobs work like that. I don't think they just suddenly put in an appearance in quite that way. But one of my friends swore blind. And do you know, you never grow out of that. This is an awful thing to say, but there's nobody else here, so I can say what I bloody like. When my children first went to school, there was a local school just around the corner from where we lived, and they took on a new teacher, Miss Jupp. Miss Jupp was about 21, 22 years old and supermodel good looks. Try doing a parents' evening with a 6-year-old when you're facing Miss Jupp. Don't remember a damn word she said. She may have been telling me that my children were retarded. I have no idea. No recollection whatsoever. We've got somebody, Jardi Correa, watching all the way from Brazil. Brazil, home of the best football in the world, outside of West Ham, obviously. Graham Williams, footy, says, I left school with no qualifications, walked into a job, been doing that ever since. But it's getting hard these days. Yeah, absolutely. Goes back to what we were saying earlier. There's a lot to be said for common sense. Please, people, don't breed it out. Nick Norton says, well, it's a bit bloody late now anyway. A risk assessment on Jimmy Savile. Now there's a challenge. Just take a look. Just take a look and think, really? Is that a good... Is that... Would you trust him with your dog, let alone your children? Probably not. Peter McKenna says, Mickey Mouse putting holes in cheese with his lower appendage. Sex has always been forced on kids way too early. Is that right? What weird-ass cartoons are you watching? Let's have a look. What is the cost of houses these days? Living in a cardboard box doesn't sound that bad at all. Garrett, I realise you joined late. Just to let you know, listen, I know Americans thoroughly understand the whole Monty Python thing. The 4 Yorkshiremen sketch from Monty Python. 4 Yorkshiremen talking about how hard they had it as a child. If you haven't seen it, go and look it up. It will tell you more about the British mentality than pretty much anything else. Dan Card says, have a great day, lads. Have my HS&E test later to update my CPCS card. Good luck with that, Dan. Not that you need luck. I'm sure you'll be fine. I think that's about it. No, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. It's only taken us an hour and a half. Flying through today. Quite. I know I say this a lot, but you know, people turn up to watch this show to look at diggers, and we've ended up doing the boobs on teachers, Napier's logarithms, and cardboard boxes. Yeah, it's a weird show, this, right? Everybody go and have a fantastic day. It looks like I've got to go up to hospital with my good lady. Probably pay for parking again, because that seems to be the way that it works. Everybody have a fantastic day today. I'll see you tomorrow for I was going to say the final show of the week. That is not true. Not true at all, because I will be back here on Saturday for the second Saturday social. If you fancy a bit of a chat, like we're having now, please turn up on Saturday. You can turn up on Sunday as well if you like. I won't be here, nor will the show, but you know. But if you fancy a chat on Saturday, please turn up. We'll have a chat about something. We'll make it up like we always do. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thanks for all your input. I'll see you all soon. All the best.